In a stunning move following a tense and dangerous military standoff that had the world holding its breath, the United States has put forward a groundbreaking proposal to Iran, a deal worth up to $30 billion, with funding provided by US-backed Gulf allies, all aimed at reshaping the future of Iran's nuclear program and the region itself. The plan is ambitious. Iran would receive resources and technical support to build a modern, peaceful nuclear energy program, opening the door to new technology and international cooperation. But in exchange, Iran must completely abandon any pursuit of nuclear weapons, agreeing to strict oversight and transparency. This carrot-and-stick approach comes on the heels of a fragile ceasefire and a series of devastating airstrikes that left the region on edge, with both sides wary of further escalation. Now the US is offering not just unprecedented funding, but also sweeping sanctions relief that could open Iran's economy to the world. On top of that, the release of $6 billion in frozen Iranian assets would provide an immediate economic boost. President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio are betting that after feeling the heat of military action and economic pressure, Iran's leaders might finally consider a diplomatic off-ramp to avoid further conflict. The offer is bold and risky. It's a high-stakes gamble with enormous consequences for both sides. Will the promise of economic prosperity, international reintegration, and a brighter future tempt Iran to trade its nuclear ambitions for peaceful power and global acceptance? Tehran now faces a pivotal decision, one that will be debated in parliament, scrutinized by its leaders, and watched by the world. The outcome could reshape not just the Middle East, but the entire global fight against nuclear proliferation, setting a precedent for generations to come. The US offer comes with one non-negotiable demand, a demand that has shaped years of tense negotiations and diplomatic standoffs. Iran must permanently end all uranium enrichment on its soil, shutting down the very process that could one day lead to a nuclear weapon. Washington's logic is straightforward. Enrichment is the gateway to nuclear weapons, and even low-level enrichment can be quickly ramped up if the political will exists. The US wants Iran to follow the UAE model. Develop nuclear energy for peaceful purposes, but import all nuclear fuel under strict international supervision, leaving no room for secret stockpiles. Under this proposal, Iran's nuclear sites like Fordow would be converted into peaceful research centers, with international inspectors ensuring full transparency and compliance. Decades of mistrust, secret sites, and evidence of past weaponization efforts drive this hardline stance from Washington and its partners. For the US and its allies, zero enrichment is seen as the only way to guarantee Iran never reaches the nuclear threshold, no matter who is in power. The $30 billion package is the price for Iran to choose economic integration, global investment, and a new future over continued isolation and suspicion. This diplomatic push follows a brief but intense military conflict. Israeli and US strikes targeted Iran's nuclear sites and military leaders. The IAEA confirmed Fordow's centrifuges were knocked offline, a major blow to Iran's enrichment efforts. Yet, US intelligence reports Iran moved its enriched uranium stockpile before the attacks, limiting the setback to just a few months. The White House claimed total destruction, but the reality is more nuanced. Iran's core program survived. The strikes showed US resolve, but also the limits of military power. Airstrikes alone can't end Iran's nuclear ambitions. That's why the US quickly pivoted to diplomacy, hoping the show of force makes a negotiated deal more attractive to Tehran. Iran's response to the US offer has exposed deep divisions. Hardliners, led by figures like Saeed Jalili, insist enrichment is a sovereign right and denounce the deal as a Western trap. The Guardian Council suspended cooperation with the IAEA, signaling defiance. But moderates, led by President Masoud Pezeshkian, see the offer as a lifeline for an economy battered by sanctions and war. They quietly push for diplomacy, arguing economic stability is more urgent than nuclear self-sufficiency. Supreme Leader Khamenei's silence has created a power vacuum, intensifying the struggle between factions. The final decision, and Iran's future, rests with which side can sway the Supreme Leader. As the world watches with bated breath, the United States hopes its carefully calibrated mix of pressure and incentives will finally bring Iran to the negotiating table. The stakes are high, and every move is scrutinized by allies. The US hopes that its recent military strikes will make its zero enrichment demand more palatable to Iran. At the same time, Iran's moderate politicians are working behind the scenes, trying to convince the Supreme Leader that accepting this deal may be the only realistic way out of the current crisis. The outcome of these tense negotiations could be a historic agreement that reshapes the region, a hardline rejection that escalates tensions, or a prolonged stalemate that leaves both sides frustrated and the world on edge. At this critical crossroads, the choices made by both nations will not only determine their own futures, but will also shape the destiny of the Middle East for many years to come.